Na 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 na. I don't know the rest of it as well. It's not nearly as iconic as perhaps the original, but it should be.
Yeah,
because it's amazing. Welcome to Rocktober in November, where we're covering all of things Rocky for one more week after this one. This is episode 7, covering the movie Creed. I actually think at this point, the only movie franchise that might have like legit more movies than Rocky are probably like James Bond and Star Wars.
Yeah, and I guess if you count like the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
yeah, that's true.
As a whole entity,
as a singular entity. I'm Joe.
I'm Ashley.
We're Geek to My Nerd, as you probably know if you've watched some of our stuff already. If you haven't, welcome. We're talking about Creed. We've talked about other Rocky stuff. There's a playlist I put together today. It wasn't very hard. I'm surprised I didn't do it already. And we should probably just jump right on in, right?
Should we check in with the chat first?
We don't. I mean, Langley's here. Thank you for joining us, Langley. Haven't had anyone else pop in yet, but I will say hi as they pop in.
All right, then.
Because we appreciate when people join us for our live shows.
We do.
So, Creed.
All right, like we do with all of our shows, we're going to do a little bit of overview, talk about box office, awards and accolades, the gripes that we had, the likes, what we felt were the most important scenes that contribute to like the theme and such, and then of course exploring some of those themes in a little more detail.
There's a lot of stuff in this one. We enjoy it. Ding ding! Round 1, our overview.
Although we can't replicate like the weird buzzer that they have in the modern movies, which is like throw.
It sounds like a freaking school bell.
Yeah, it threw me off. All right, so Creed was released on November 25th, which I think was Thanksgiving of the year 2015. Directed by Ryan Coogler. This was his second full-length feature film to direct.
First one was Fruitvale Station?
Yes, and the third one is Black Panther. He wrote the screenplay along with Aaron Covington. The budget they were given was $35 million. Opening weekend scored just a little shy of, or just a little bit above, 29.5 million. A little above that margin. It opened at number 3 at the box office. And its total worldwide was $173.5 million.
That is a woefully small amount of money for how good this movie is.
For real. I think like in the overall scheme of 2015 films, it ranked in the top 30 for box office, but it was like number 29 out of 30. So, I mean, there's like a lot of competition out there. But this movie had garnered a lot of awards buzz and such, so I feel like that it did not do as well as it could have. It had very low overseas run as far as box office wise. Most of its total comes from the domestic market. So
that's a pretty impressive amount, though.
Yeah,
percentages in this day and age.
Definitely a successful movie, and of course, there's a sequel. That's why we're doing this whole thing.
Oh yes. Ding, ding. Round 2, awards and accolades.
All right. So Academy Award nomination for Sylvester Stallone for Best Supporting Actor. He is in a small club of other actors who also received a nomination for a character they had played more than once. So I can't remember all the other actors' names, but of course he was previously nominated for Best Actor for the same role. And I think a lot of people were very disappointed that he did not win. I forgot who won. I think it was the guy in Bridge of Spies that won against Stallone.
There's a few. Was it
Mark Rylance?
Oh, okay.
And I think people were like, really? That movie? That role? That guy? And of course, a lot of people were, chiding Stallone or dismissive. It's like, well, he's played that character for 40 years. Of course, he could do a good job. But I don't think that should be we should be dismissive just because someone's played the role before.
Well,
it doesn't mean
it's a different task to take on too, because he's playing the role for the first time, like outside of his creative control because he didn't write the script.
Yeah, I think he had some little involvement with the screenplay, but he's not the creative control behind the script. You know, I think the studio wanted them to make another movie and brought in the new people.
I would imagine there was probably some consulting to be done.
Yeah, and he is a producer on the film, and of course he was he won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. So usually that's kind of like a link. If you win this, you could win the other one. This was also nominated for numerous other awards from other awards-giving bodies, like different critics associations and other things. So the African American Film Critics Association gave awards to Ryan Coogler for direction, Tessa Thompson for her role, and then a Breakthrough Performance Award to Michael B. Jordan for his role as Adonis.
Word. Very true.
And then the NAACP Image Awards, another very prestigious awards giving body from a very, proactive organization in our country. They gave a director award to Coogler, a writing award to Coogler and Covington, and then actor awards to Jordan and Thompson. So this definitely had a lot of awards clout from all sorts of different associations versus some of the other ones, because a lot of those awards giving bodies didn't exist back then.
Yeah.
And this definitely being, an African-American-led production, definitely was on the radar for some of those other things that the other Rockies were not on the radar for.
Right.
This is the second highest worldwide gross in the franchise and the fourth highest domestic gross. Carl Weathers really enjoyed this movie and was very complimentary toward Michael B. Jordan's performance. Tomato meter wise, 95% from the critics, 89% for audiences, and an A of cinema score. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's definitely got both audiences and critics, agreeing, which, sometimes those don't match up for whatever reason.
If there's like a difference in more than like 30%, there's just like, I think there's a disconnect somewhere for what the different groups are looking for.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I think that's it for, then I pulled some different critic reports. So Peter Travers of the Rolling Stone, Jordan is stellar and so irresistible is Stallone's blend of tough and tender that Oscar should give him points. Yo, Academy. John Wenzel of the Denver Post, Creed stirs emotions with a strong yet artful hand. I thought that kind of was very good to note, because I felt that this was a very masterfully created film.
Yes, there's a lot of love that went into these shots. Yeah,
and then Mick LaSalle, the San Francisco Chronicle, Coogler knows what Stallone has always known. It's not about the fights. It's about making an audience feel deeply about the people involved in the fights.
Yep.
And so this definitely goes back to the heart of what the franchise should be about, whereas I felt some of those later movies were all about the fights.
And yeah, that statement actually makes a lot of sense why like 4 and 5 were just bad.
Not good, yeah.
So to check in with the chat, there really hasn't been a lot of movement in the chat.
That's fine.
Just us talking. I don't know if Langley's still there. If he is, feel free to chime in, suggest something. If you got any commentary, if you've seen Creed, let us know. But yeah, I think we're ready to move on to. Are we on round 3 now?
Yeah, it's going pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right, gripes.
Round 3.
All right, so our first gripe was like, here's this random child that did not exist in the canon before.
Yeah.
Not that, we want to throw away the whole premise of the movie, but it just kind of felt very...
It's a combination of issues, tiny issues, that can be explained, but they weren't. I think if they were explained, it probably would have been a little less of an issue. Like, him cheating on his wife seems kind of out of character for Creed. Just vaguely, and then combined with like his mom or Mrs. Creed being able to track him down that easily, and little things.
Yeah, and she seems really cool with the fact that she's meeting like this 13-year-old kid for the first time, and like there's no like indication for how long she's been looking for him or knew about him. So very interesting that they went this way, and just it kind of feels. Again, like they needed to just explain it a little more.
Yeah.
Which I would have been fine with. And then and like the whole like damaging to like Creed's legacy thing was brought up, and so like that's also kind of like a little gripe, not the fact that it would damage his legacy, but just like putting maybe a little more thought into the beginning of the movie would have made these things feel more real, because it's not like the mom ever says like, oh, you can't tell people who you are, you're always going to be a Johnson and not a Creed.
Yeah.
So it just kind of felt a little off.
Yeah. It was just some weird optics with it.
Yeah. And then it's like, what happened to the other Creed children? There's clearly a little boy and a little girl.
They explain where Robert went.
Yeah, but like nothing, like you would think that the other children would have been a little miffed that, you know, suddenly there is a new brother from another mother.
Who's much younger.
And, you know, like their dad stepping out on her. You'd think that they could have played with this tension a little bit, because there would have been tension there.
This was during Rocky 2 that this shot was
done.
So this was what, the early 70s or late 70s? Late 70s, like 78, 79.
Yeah, so these would be adult, like, you know, full-fledged adults.
By 98.
Yeah.
Because we're talking like 20 years later. Which we're talking, these kids are probably, what would you say, like 9, 10, somewhere around there. So they're in their 30s by the time they find out they have a 13-year-old younger half-brother. So it makes sense why they're not necessarily around quite so much. Yeah, but
there might have still been some lingering animosity to find that out.
Yeah.
Even though it's definitely not Adonis's fault that happened, you know, it has to be born.
So.
All right, and then another gripe that we had was this whole plot line with this trainer at Mix who wants his son to be trained by Rocky, but Rocky doesn't want to train anybody. And then, you know, Adonis, like, you know, is also training at this gym, you know, obviously on purpose because he wants Rocky to train him, and is like, yo, Unc. And they're like, how do you know each other? Oh, we just met at the restaurant. Like, you know, we're just going to play it cool and casual.
He could have been so simple as just saying something like he's a friend of the family.
And so the fact that, you know, they don't say anything about his lineage, I would have expected this other trainer, this guy that runs the gym, to be a little more angry that Rocky was deceitful toward him.
Well, and I think he is, because I think it's implied that he's the reason
that everybody
the media knows who he is. But yeah, it feels like, and it's just a widely avoidable situation. That's very easy. This could have been a non-issue, essentially, and it was a huge issue, and it's frustrating. So,
all right, and this one was like one of your real big gripes.
So we kind of got past like the crazy level, like Ricky, what's his face, a Pretty Boy or whatever.
Yeah, Pretty Boy Ricky Conlon.
Yeah, he was like trying to be like, I'm this self-made man, and you don't know the tough life I've had, and I'm this everyman boxer kind of guy. And then he has a fire breather with his entrance. And it's just the most ridiculous. Like, I thought Apollo's entries were ridiculous and like way, way over the top. But they had nothing on having a legit fire breather in the room. That's just insane. But that's most of my stuff. This just seems like way.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, I'm a humble guy. And then it's like, no.
Fire breather.
No, honey, no.
So, all right. Still no movement in the chat at the moment, unfortunately. I'd say let's move on.
All right.
Round 4. Likes. Ding, ding.
All right, so obviously because we have a different director, we have a different aesthetic style.
Yep.
And so that was really cool to see that, where they didn't just rehash, like, here's the fights from Rocky Balboa and all of that kind of thing. So that was really nice. I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. 1 second. And then there was a lot of love given to
Rocky's roots being there.
Exactly, especially elements from like the first 2 films, really. Maybe a little bit from 3, and not really anything from 4 or 5 doesn't exist.
It felt like the biggest thing that one could pull and be like, yeah, that's like, or for me anyway, Cuff and Link, of course, are a big deal, but I love that it looked like one of the housing units that he ran by daily almost was like the apartment Rocky used to live in, or the house that he and Adrian had in Rocky 2, something like that. At least that's what it felt like.
And then, of course, Adrian's, they kept that from Rocky Balboa, so that was a nice touch where they don't just try to like retcon like everything that happened.
Well, Rocky, Rocky's got to make a living.
Yeah. And then, of course, him going to visit the graves, and now Polly has passed on.
Yep.
And then, of course, the actor that plays Polly, and I want to say the actors that plays Adrian, like they are not deceased, but for whatever reason, plot wise, I didn't see why.
Honestly, Polly was supposed to be older than Rocky anyway.
Yeah, so
Polly didn't take care of himself.
That's true. He was an alcoholic, and he did not live a healthy lifestyle. In one of the movies, he was kind of thin, but overall, it would make sense, like canonically, like why Polly would not be there.
Thank you for joining us, Sam. He's got 15 minutes for lunch. He decided to spend it with us.
Nice. And then, of course, Apollo Creed's boxing gym, the Delphi Boxing Academy, which, of course, also Greek reference, like the Oracle at Delphi. So that's kind of cool, along with, the name Adonis, which is like the beautiful one. Yeah,
they're keeping with the theme, and I love that.
Yeah, and then this young man right here is the son of Duke, the good Duke.
Yeah.
Tony Duke Evers. So this is his son, who's a trainer at the gym, and he doesn't want to give Adonis a chance because, doesn't really see him as like a legitimate player. Like these guys have grown up hard, like with a hard knock life. Like they have to fight to survive. Like you're kind of a pretty boy. You have a privileged life now, and so it does like this little shouting thing where it's like, we're not singing, we're not dancing, like over here, which kind of made me think of Apollo's entrance in Rocky 4 where he's like dancing around. Yeah, like he's ashamed of that, maybe on on behalf of his father.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Apollo challenges like some of his boxers and knocks one out, but the other one, we'll talk about that later. And then this guy is just like seriously, like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
Will you at least put the headgear on?
Yeah. And then,
hey,
of course,
Tom, thank you for joining us.
And then Mix is back. It's been all cleaned up and nice. And then they have like a huge memorial or like not memorial, but you know what I mean.
Like a big wall.
A celebration of the Italian stallion who put Mix on the map, and that's where we meet Leo the Lion.
Yep.
And his father. And then I just love that we have like this fight and such at the beginning of the movie where he's fighting in like the back room.
It's like in Tijuana or something.
Yeah, Tijuana bar fight, and it's like, he works in an office.
Yeah, and it's such a quick cut. It's beautiful. It goes from a lot of ruckus noise to just this quiet little office atmosphere.
And it makes me think of when Rocky tried to get an office job and they're like, oh, honey, no.
Yeah.
So clearly Adonis is, has a good education behind him and working in some kind of a firm. But you can tell he does not like working there.
I would imagine Marianne tried to keep him. Like, I think it's the opposite of the Rocky situation. Rocky mentioned, I tried to train my son and didn't really... Fighting wasn't really for him.
Yeah.
That's fine. I get it. As where Marianne was like, I don't want you to get anywhere near boxing. And he's like, but I want to be a boxer.
Yeah, it's in his blood. And then as we see, like he has like a little projection system, and he's watching the super fight with his dad versus Rocky and shadow boxing along with him. And so I thought that was like a sweet little moment because he never got to meet his dad. Didn't even know who he was until he was 13 years old. So that's a lot of, issue to unpack.
Yep.
And then, of course, Bianca, his neighbor, who turns into his love interest. And so I really love the chemistry that they had together.
Fantastic chemistry.
And I also like that she's kind of her own agent in this story. She's not just a love interest.
Yep.
She has her own hopes, dreams, and ambitions.
And he almost ruins them for her.
Yeah, like he gets into a fight with like someone at
another
musician at her gig, and so she drops him like a few times like throughout the movie because like he lied to her about like who he really was and all sorts of other stuff. Whereas like Adrian was more kind of like, you're there, like you're the object of Rocky's affection. You don't really have much, going for you except being like the motivator, like otherwise, like career wise.
Yeah.
So that really is a testament to like these movies were made in different eras.
Yes, very much so.
But even then, and sometimes a lot of movies, even from this era, women are just a trophy or eye candy or a love interest. So very awesome for Coogler to make sure that she was more than just
there to be the love interest.
Yeah, just there to be Adonis's love interest. And I like it. At one point, they get into like a huge argument and they talk about like, oh, I'm just your motivation. And I thought that was kind of like calling out the franchise a little bit with, even though those scenes with Adrian are really important.
Yeah.
That, she can be more than just one thing.
Yep. Sam asks, drops him like he's hot and perhaps like a hot potato.
And then this little moment where like he asks her on a date and she's like, where are you from? Like, is that how you West Coast boys, like ask a girl out? And they're like, they go to like one of these famous cheesesteak places, which I thought was interesting that none of the other Rocky movies set in Philadelphia
feature cheesesteaks.
They don't feature cheesesteaks, but this is the one that does. So I don't know what that says about like maybe, Stallone being, I think he is from Philadelphia. Maybe that's not a big deal to natives, or
I think it's you know how much we like barbecue, but we kind of take it for granted?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like that.
Yeah, whereas Coogler, I think, grew up in Oakland, and so, like, this is, like, it's
an iconic thing.
Yeah, it is an iconic thing. Everybody that's outside of Philadelphia, and we actually did eat cheesesteaks when we were in Philly. I don't remember where we got them from.
A friend of ours, Delisha, introduced us to the place.
Yeah, like
they were fantastic.
Yeah, we got them delivered. It was pretty great.
There's a story behind it. Oh. We thought one of the other people showing up to hang out with us, Joe, another Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
We thought was the delivery guy.
Yeah, we're like, who is this person? Yeah.
Tom Zambino says it feels like the cheesesteaks are a bigger deal now than they were. Philly is latching onto it now. Like, I grew up always thinking cheesesteaks were like a Philly thing. Like they were called Philadelphia cheesesteaks. But I think now that like we have this connectivity culture where everyone knows everyone else's things, I think it's that like places are now starting to realize that other things know them for certain things and they catch on. Yeah. Like Tex-Mex places were all over the place previously, but in the last 10 years, there's like 7 on one block. Same with barbecue joints and everything else. So I think it's
and apparently the barbecue is different in other states. Like I thought all the barbecue was just the same, but
it's mostly in the sauce and what kind of meat they focus on.
And some, because
like here we do brisket. It's all about that beef brisket.
And then I just also love
apparently Stallone is from New York.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay then.
Yeah.
Well now.
That was from Tom Zambino.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
So I also love the rapport between Michael B. Jordan and Stallone, just like an instant chemistry between them. And like this little moment where like he calls him and it's like, yo, Unc. It's like, did you just call me Unc? Like, what is that? And it's like, oh, it was either that or OG. Well, what's OG? And it's like, I think I prefer Unc.
Yeah.
And then like he was trying to help him like, okay, I'll give you a routine, but I'm not going to train you. And he's like helping him spell shadow because he was saying shadow boxing. So like Rocky doesn't know how to spell, which is cute.
Yeah. We probably didn't have to write routines out for people that didn't train anymore.
Exactly. And then he's like, don't you want to take this paper? Nah, man, I got it up in the cloud. He's like, cloud? What cloud?
Yeah, I love that Rocky kind of takes on, not only is he Rocky in this movie, but he's also Mick and Paulie in this movie. He's like PG Paulie.
Yeah. Not racist Paulie.
Not racist, not cursing, not alcoholic Paulie. But like Rocky, like he is a sweet guy who is passionate about what he loves, and he wants to, but he still doesn't know about contemporary things.
Yeah. And very in character for Rocky to not get stuff. I mean, it's been in the whole franchise that he doesn't get things.
I mean, it's what, 2015? This movie's probably set around then, 2014, 2013.
Yeah.
Rocky probably didn't have a computer, even in the store. He probably does everything by paper.
Oh, wow, he probably does. And then this moment when she meets him, it's like, oh, like, you didn't tell me that your uncle was white, or like, you know, or he's white or whatever. And then like Rocky,
he's like, yeah, like for a long time now.
Yeah. And then like he invites her over because he knows how important Adonis, or how she is to Adonis.
Yep.
And then she's like, you didn't tell me that your uncle was Rocky Balboa. Like, she doesn't seem like mad at her or anything.
She seemed a little upset,
yeah,
but like
just
not as mad as she was when she found out he was Creed.
Yeah. So that was just kind of like, I was wondering, like, does she not know who Rocky is? Because she's just very cool. Yep. Cool with it. And then, like, when they get up, like, super early in the morning to train, like, Rocky is doing this little dance to this old song.
This is great. Like, the look on Adonis's face when he sees him dancing around, it's just like, man, it's like 5:40 in the morning. What are you even doing?
Yeah, and it just kind of, again, like, shows that Rocky is like a precious man.
And yeah, this is, I think, their first training montage.
Yeah,
because there's two.
And so we see like some different moments from it where, yeah, he's like making them do the different like showing them like the different punching moves where he's jumping rope and he's just reading the paper. It's like, that bell don't mean stop.
Yeah, doesn't mean school's out.
When they're doing the speed bag together, and then like this little moment in the top right hand corner where it's like, when you're talking, you're not listening. I just love that.
Yeah.
Like, so stay and listen for a moment.
Stay a while and listen.
So yeah, I thought the training is where it's like, especially in the later Rocky movies, the training montages are like, oh my god, another montage. Like this, they just felt very seamless in this movie.
And I have a theory. We talked about that on the drive home earlier. I think my theory behind it is, in some of the previous Rocky movies, especially like Rocky 4 and 5, the training montages and all the stuff he does is just silent images of them doing stuff
to like some 80s song
or to music. It doesn't matter what it is. But the thing is, with this one, the music is still there. They're still doing the montage shots, but there is dialogue. It's like when Rocky says about the bell situation. That's in the middle of the montage. So it feels like, you said, it felt seamless, and I think that's why it still feels like we're in the same movie.
Leveled up our montage abilities.
Yeah.
All right, and then of course Rocky is diagnosed with I think non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yep.
And there's like a huge turning point where he doesn't want to get chemotherapy, but that is turned around. He doesn't let that stop Adonis's training, and so they're like literally like all these wonderful scenes where they're at chemotherapy,
and he's training in the room with Rocky.
And so like there's different points, like one where it's like, don't hit the nurse, and then you can kind of see Rocky's condition, because chemotherapy is very harsh on you, and you see Rocky, like start losing his hair and whatnot, like a little
sick
frail.
A lot, and he needs help getting into bed. Yeah,
but he's still like, he's got his fighter, and like they're working together to fight the good fight.
I believe it's as Adonis said in the turning points, like, if I fight, you fight. And that's what this whole montage is both of them fighting, and that's like a beautiful parallel. Yeah,
and then we see at one point in this montage where like there's like this whole like crew of like dudes on bikes and
four-wheelers,
and they're like the real crews of Philly, of the part of town they're in, and they respect Adonis.
Yeah,
they're like, you're Apollo Creed's son, right? Like, okay, cool. Like it's like it's no big deal for them, and they're like, hey, you gonna go see Rocky? And like, we're gonna all go with you. So it kind of mimics.
Yeah, it has vibes of Rocky 2 in the best way.
All right, and then I like a lot of the stylistic choices that they made with the graphics, especially. So each one of Adonis's opponents, we get their name, their nickname, and some information about them. In the bottom right-hand corner is his first opponent, and then it kind of goes where it's like The two opponents from the gym are diagonal from each other, and then the other two kind of real opponents are
Leo and Ricky.
And so they each have their own color scheme, and so it's really cool to see their stats presented this way. The only one that kind of like they should have probably picked like a different contrasting color in Conlon's area because it's really hard to read that.
Yeah, with the blue in his background.
Mm-hmm. They should have done like a different color, but you know.
It would have been impressive if they did it over the fire from the fire breather that shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Yeah, that would have looked better. But I just love like the look on Kevin Greer's face where it's like, what is going on here? Like I don't understand because he's like right about to fight him, and then Leo, he didn't fight him till later, but like you can see like he's sizing up this young upstart.
Yeah.
Wheeler is like, who is this joke? And then Ricky Conlon, because he's about to go into battle, has like a super serious face. Like it looks like he'd eat you.
The thing is, with all these guys, like I don't hate any of these fighters.
No, like
granted, with
Leo's tattoos, like I felt like he should have had like his tattoo stopped at like the side of his neck. Just go around. I don't know why. Just like go all the way around, dude. It looked a little weird. Because it was like a half circle.
But still, regardless, none of these guys give me any impression that like it's not like Drago, or even Clubber, who started insulting like Adrian and stuff like that. Like Kevin, unfortunately, is the only one I don't really know anything.
Yeah, because like you literally let us see him for like 2 seconds. He's sparring with someone, and then Adonis knocks him out.
Just clean down.
And then Leo, like you can tell, like he's not a bad guy. You know, his dad, is very ambitious, but that's not his fault.
Yeah. And Ricky's even one that like you kind of don't like him a little, but then by the end you're like, okay, he's a cool dude.
Yeah. And then Wheeler, like you don't really get to see like a whole lot of him. Just that like he doesn't want people like punking out of his at his boxing gym.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna put this upstart in his place, and which he does. So all the antagonists were very good. None of them were like so frustratingly annoying like Tommy Gunn.
Thank you for joining us, Sam. By the way,
Union Kane, all those people.
Yeah,
the forgettable people.
No one cares about Union Kane.
Mason the Line Dixon.
Him.
Yeah, no one cares about those people.
Dixon wasn't too bad.
And then you really liked this moment for stylistic reasons.
From the first fight, whenever the guy comes in and starts explaining the rules of the match, like don't do this, we're
watch your rabbit punches.
Which they don't even use that.
I know,
but frustrating.
I know, like they should have said that in every movie. Watch your rabbit punches.
By the way, Tom Zamino says better than Tommy Gunn is not a high bar to clear. And that's very fair. That's
true.
Very fair.
They're way above.
But it's interesting because while he's explaining it, all the sound leaves. Mm-hmm. Like it starts doing that whole like focusing on one pinhole of a sound. And you can still kind of hear the people in the background, but even they get a little muted.
Mm-hmm.
And then like as soon as Adonis, like as soon as Dawn, like snaps out of it and he's like, no, I'm freaking out. I gotta take a dump. I gotta do this. Everything rushes back in real quick. And that's really cool.
Yeah, because it lets you know like his feeling. Like they didn't have to say, I'm scared.
Like
I'm freaking out. Like he's freaking out because that's a sound in the language of film, like that sound effect lets you know that something's wrong with the character.
It's very reminiscent of like any time that you see a movie do like the invasion of Normandy. On D-Day, when anytime there is a single explosion, it's that tinnitus sound effect. Yeah, it represents like the whole like reality settling in on him that he's about to go do his first real televised fight, and holy cow! And
this is not even like the big time. This is like just like with Leo.
Yeah.
So and then nobody knows he's a Creed.
Yep.
Well, the other guys do, but they didn't know to promote it as the fight that way. But yeah, that was
a pre-Bianca knowing.
Yeah, this is a really cool moment. I like when they play with sound.
Yep. There's a lot of that in this.
And then, of course, kind of continuing a trend that we saw a lot in all the Rocky movies where they bring in like the news articles, but now we're in the digital age, so everything is digital. I like the transition from Adonis watching this HBO special on his iPad or his device, and then it switches to like we get to see it from like the first, like the the perspective as we were watching it on our own TVs versus kind of in the second person mode. So I thought that was like a cool transition, and it kind of brings those documentary elements into the movie where we get to learn about Conlon's troubles. Like he's going to go to prison for 7 years on a gun charge and have to leave his family behind. And we get to see a little bit of Wheeler and how Wheeler doesn't care about Conlon leaving like a good legacy. He just wants to win it for himself. So it's very interesting to see those profiles. And of course, Adonis really being into boxing, wants to see the, like what's happening in the boxing world. And then he's probably, I wonder what he's thinking when he sees Wheeler, who beat him up at the gym.
Yep.
And then, of course, bringing in other media elements from like different sports shows. Like that's a continuing trend from the previous movies.
From Balboa, especially.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the reality of the boxing match, where we get to see what it looks like ringside with the HD cameras and such. You can kind of see like the little HBO logo in the corner,
which is something I think they started doing that they did in Balboa. But they took it to a new level with this one too, where the style of the shooting changed based on what was being shot. Like if it was a wide shot of the fight or any normal fight shot, it was this high definition HDR they use for the fights and things like that. But if it would switch to a more personal moment, like if it was like at the ring, if it was in the corner when Rocky was like saying something to Adonis, then it would have been shot slightly differently with a different kind of camera. And it was really interesting to kind of let us know like what everyone's seeing and what's for us. So I don't know. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And then I really enjoyed this moment where like Rocky wants to call the fight because he doesn't want Adonis to get hurt anymore. He literally cannot see out of his eye. And so like the doctor, whoever this is like, okay, let's do like how many fingers am I holding up? And then he taps on the back of his head how many fingers he's holding up, so he gets the test right.
Yep.
So that's, I don't know like how super shady that is or what. But I thought that was an interesting moment to keep the fight going. And I guess if the doctor says it's okay, you really can't say anything.
Yep.
And then of course, one of the pivotal moments in the match when Conlon knocks Creed out cold, and we see like a really cool montage of like all the important people in Creed's life. And then he like literally like wakes up from like a dead knockout to get back on his feet. And so
the way he gets up is inhuman.
Yeah, and like Conlon thinks he's won the fight, and then he sees Creed back up, and he's like, he just like that little corner of his eye just like has all of the shock in the world of like how did he get up? How did he get up?
So checking in with the chat real quick. Now that we have Tom Zambino's joined us. And, Sam had to head back to work. Thank you for joining us either way, Sam. I know you're not seeing this now, but you might check in later.
Yeah, you never know.
Let's see. Realistic but pretty shady. I assume Tom's talking about the tap on the head thing. Yeah, a little shady. We've made some improvements in sports, but there's still a lot. You'll be fine. Keep going. Yeah. Yep. It's that kind of culture that like it's cool. It's cool. You have a concussion. It's okay.
It's okay. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Regardless, I think it, like you had read in the beginning, it was about the fighters, and we wanted to see Adonis go that distance, just like we wanted to see Rocky go the distance in the first one. And realistically, no, he should have stopped.
Yeah, definitely.
He definitely should have stopped. He was getting paid already. It's fine.
It's okay.
So we're ready to check to jump back in.
Yep. All right, so most important scenes.
Ding, ding. Round 5.
All right, so in the very beginning of the movie, when he challenges everybody in the boxing arena at the Delphi gym, Wheeler knocks him out. And so this is kind of like his first taste of, oh, I'm not as good as I thought I was.
This whole self-taught thing isn't going to work.
Yeah, like I'm going to need to actually train, and I'm going to need to find someone who will actually train me. Because like all of the previous experience he had, like he won all of his matches, but they were in Mexico. And like Duke's son said, these are all like barroom ballers. These are brawlers. These are not like seasoned veterans of the sport. Like you can't call yourself a champ when you're fighting like these. Like these guys are not a competition. And so he gets that little taste of humility,
yep,
which is important because he needs to learn to grow from that. And he does. Like he takes the training very seriously, unlike like, you know, Tommy Gunn, who's like, when am I going to get my shot? When am I going to get my shot? Like Adonis is very patient.
Yeah, he doesn't. That's the thing. Like Adonis doesn't want a shot. He just wants to fight. He wants to fight, which I think is the difference. Like I think that's like Tommy wanted to be popular. He wanted that taste.
He wanted the glory. And then when Rocky is training him in the first montage, we see this moment where like that's your biggest adversary is yourself.
And he makes a point of saying like in boxing and in life. So I loved that this told us what we needed to know about late in life Rocky now, where he is done with boxing for him. But it's not just that he learned how to box. He also learned how to be a mentor from like Mick, from Adrian, from you know, Duke. Apollo and Duke and everyone. Like he's taken what he knows and what he learned from everyone else around him to become another teacher.
Yeah, because as a teacher, like you have to learn like what strategies are going to work for you. Like if he was just a carbon copy of Mick, you know, yelling at Adonis all the time, like that's not going to work like for that student. So like Rocky has to learn like, you know, what is the style that's going to work for me? How am I going to be able to communicate? So he's like a more gentle teacher.
What you're saying is Rocky has a good classroom philosophy.
Yeah, because like, you know, you can learn anything, you know, all sorts of stuff in school and like, you know, have different mentors, but you have to be the one that own the curriculum. And if you don't, then it makes it really hard for you to do your job. So Rocky had to take all those lessons he learned from everybody and make it work for him. And so I think I think that the mentor-mentee relationship is beautiful in this film.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like, whereas
not trying to discount Mick and Rocky's relationship at all.
But you know, that was a different era, a different philosophy. You know, philosophies.
Rocky was a different kind of fighter than Don is.
Yeah, like, you know, obviously Adonis like comes from, you know, like a rough background, but also like he grew up very privileged. He grew up in two worlds.
Yeah.
Whereas like Rocky, you know, was from the streets. He wasn't doing all the right things. So, and that, you know, Mick knew that and was disappointed in him. So yeah, different relationships going in. So it's not like there's one's right and one's wrong. It's just they're different. And you as the teacher in the relationship have to realize that you don't have to be like tough all the time if that's not in your nature.
And the thing is, Rocky is tough, but he's not like cruel because he never lets up on Apollo, as in one of the scenes previously, like when the bell rang and Apollo stopped doing the jumper, it was like, that doesn't mean you stop.
Yeah, like
keep going, kid.
Yeah, we don't.
I think the big difference is like Rocky wants to push, as where Mick wanted to prod. They're both fine, but it's just I like both.
Yeah. Another important moment that we alluded to earlier when Bianca is like, oh, I'm looking you up to find out about the fight, what people are saying.
Yep.
And the news has leaked that Adonis is the son of Apollo Creed, and so she's very upset at this revelation because she feels that he was dishonest, where he was, you know, dishonest by withholding information, not an outright lie. Because he did say, like, my dad was a boxer, he died. And she's like, but you didn't tell me that he was the most famous boxer ever. And so that's when they have their little conversation about what am I, just your motivation? Like, I'm my own person too. And so they kind of have like a little heart-to-heart moment based off of this revelation. And he's like, I'm just going to be like 100% with you from now on.
Yep.
100% honesty.
this was kind of another really important scene. It's like this is when he and Adonis are talking to each other about like
his diagnosis. He found he wasn't going to tell him, but then all of the brochures were in his pocket, and Adonis just happened to see them. And is immediately like, come on, like, I'll take you to the doctor right now. We need to start the chemotherapy. And previously, like, Rocky had talked about the fact that his wife, that did not work for her.
Yeah.
And so even though Rocky's caught his early, he doesn't care because he everything that he's loved is gone. And so he has nothing left. So like he doesn't want to fight anymore. Like he just wants to like, see, his family again in the next life.
Yep.
And so he's just tired of, being alone and all of that. And so this, of course, upsets Adonis very much because
they kind of were becoming family.
Yeah. And it's like, well, we weren't really family. And so it's this whole big deal. And they have like a huge falling out.
Yep.
Only temporarily, of course, but.
Oh, yeah. It becomes the all is lost moment.
Yes. But I felt like this was a very heart-wrenching scene where Rocky has to kind of admit, like, his mortality.
Yep.
And for, a character that we've, loved for like 40 years, that's tough.
So, yeah, I mentioned this earlier that this is the scene that turns Rocky around. That basically this is the turn moment.
Mm-hmm.
That moment that like things looked bleak, like it was all over, but no, we're not done yet. And that I love this. So if I fight, you fight. There's a lot of these kind of little like highly quotable moments in this movie that are inspirational, aspirational, whatever you want to say about them. They, much like the soundtrack, they get you pumped and they make you motivated and make you want to get stuff done.
And then this chorus is trailing behind when he's tried to like go train on his own, but he couldn't because the gym was closed or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like he did a little bit of soul searching and then of course it works and Rocky gets his treatment. And so, they're going to fight this fight together.
This is another really good one, too. And this is after Rocky already surprised him by, I guess, flying Bianca out to freaking Europe, which I'm like, did she already have her passport?
I'm assuming she did.
Yeah, I guess. Or I guess it's Rocky. He flew back to freaking Philly. Was like, you guys, come on, let her on the plane. It's me. This is Rocky. It's cool, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, okay, Rock.
We'll listen to you.
Because Rocky has apparently more clout in this city than the mayor.
It's true.
But then he gets this set of boxing shorts from his mom, Marianne, and the part that and they look like Creed's. They're the same kind of shorts.
The Star-Spangled shorts.
But the part that makes it incredibly impressive is it says Creed on one side and Johnson on the other, as if this like you don't have to
choose an identity.
Yeah, you don't have to ignore who your father is to build your own legacy. Be both, acknowledge, embrace. And it's just this touching moment too, because
especially because he and his mom had a falling out because he quit his job to be a boxer.
There's a scene earlier in the movie where he's calling her and leaving her a voicemail because she's not answering.
And so, build your own legacy. And of course, she's watching the match at home, and it's very hard for her.
Yeah.
Because, even though it's not her biological son, she's raised him as a son.
Yep.
He's part of her husband. So, clearly they have, a good relationship.
And this is also super important. At 0 seconds left, like right before the bell rings, Adonis knocks down Ricky. And previously, I think in that little like 24/7 coverage thing of the other fight that didn't end up happening because Ricky broke the other dude's jaw. Ricky said, in my entire career, I've never been knocked down.
And I won't be knocked down.
And this Ricky's last fight, he gets knocked the heck down. And it's pretty great. Yeah,
and one of the things that they say, it's like, oh man, if there was just 30 more seconds in this fight, Adonis could have been declared the winner, but it was a winner by split decision, which is very common in this franchise.
Yep.
But again, winning on your own terms. And even though Conlon won the fight, they say that Adonis won the night. And they ask him some questions about his father and like, what would you want to say to him? And so this was definitely an important moment because he could have been like a jerk or whatever. It's like, my dad didn't even know I existed, all these, things, but he chooses to, take the higher road, the higher ground. Like, I know he didn't leave me on purpose, and like he wanted to like say that like he loved him and those kind of things. So
sweet platitudes.
Very sweet, because he could have been like he could have just been a jerk about it.
What you want to say to your father if he was here? Who?
Who? I've got no dad.
So.
And then this final moment where they make the stair climb. They have to walk because Rocky can't run because, the chemotherapy.
Well, I don't think Rocky could really run that anymore anyway.
No, probably.
He's supposed to be like 70 now?
He hadn't been in that fighting shape in a while.
No, not even close.
But he wants to slow down, and it's like, no, come on, young man, let's keep going. I love that he calls him young man and not old man.
Yep.
I thought that was real sweet. And it's like, man, I think they added a few more steps to this thing over the years. And
yep. It's little things too. Like he gets up there to the top. He says, when you get up here, I love this place because you can look out and you see everything. And yeah, it's really nice that this is how they choose to bring this pivotal location.
Yeah, instead of Adonis doing the stair step run, it's them walking up together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like Rocky wanted to share this with him, and that's nice. Like, I know this is more supposed to be about Adonis, but this is still, in the world of Rocky kind of stuff. Like, this is still the world that this character existed in, and I think this goes into one of the themes of like passing the torch. Like, this is an important element of these movies. Philadelphia is like the world stage for this. So I don't know. It was touching. Like, I think I teared up the first 2 times we watched this movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cat walked on the computer. I had to make sure he wasn't hitting stuff. Not a lot added on. Let's see. I feel like it's common as the commentary. I think Tom was talking about the tapping thing. I feel like it's common as a whole in boxing. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't watch boxing at all. And just to answer your question that just popped up in the chat, Tom, we watched it, I believe, 3 times this weekend. We were in the middle of our 3rd viewing when we had to stop to do the show.
Yeah.
Which we had just finished the remixed Flying High Now, which is just as good as the original with all the redoing of it. It's magic. It's amazing. I want to make a workout because we need to start going to the gym.
Yeah.
I need to make a workout mix, and that is going to be on it.
Nice.
So, back to... Oh, wrong one. There we go. Ding, ding. Round 6 themes.
All right. So, one of the themes, of course, having to deal with your mortality.
Yep.
And so, of course, when Rocky is confronted with this, and he does have the option to get the chemotherapy, he really is insistent that I don't need this. I don't want this. I understand what that means for me. And he's cool with it.
Well, and earlier in the movie, too, he makes a comment of like, well, how'd you beat him? Like, how did you win when you fought him? When Adonis is talking to Rocky for the first time about Creed, he says, well, time gets us all. And this is, I think, kind of linked to that.
I would definitely agree. And then even though like we said earlier, they caught his cancer early, it kind of implies that maybe they didn't catch Adrian's early, because he never says like what specific cancer she had, just that it was a woman's cancer. So I'm thinking it was, some kind of internal issue versus like breast cancer or whatever. And if you catch those late, it's it's literally a death sentence.
Well, and it could have been,
and chemotherapy doesn't work sometimes.
And even then, it could be more aggressive. There's cancer is such a broad, diverse collection of diseases.
That's true. Another theme that I felt was important and embodied by Conlon was leaving, living up to a legacy is important, but you also have to leave something for your family to hold on to once you're gone. And so he's not going to be gone permanently, but he's going to be gone for a long time.
Long enough that basically he's not going to be able to box when he gets out, which isn't actually true. Rocky boxed well into his 60s.
Yeah, but like his heyday will be over by the time he's out. There'll be all these new young people in the profession, and he'll be like a tired old man, or not old, but the prison life is not the cushiest life.
Like Mason the Lion Dixon.
Mm-hmm. And then his handler is like, I don't care about like what you think about fighting this kid that only has like basically like one win under his belt. Like, I'm worried about you, like what you're gonna leave for your family.
What's gonna be here for you when you get out, and all that jazz. Yeah.
Yeah, because Ricky had ruined everything at the other fight, and no one else will fight him. So that's the other deal.
Well, and at this point, he has no one else to fight. Mm-hmm. It's not even that if people would have agreed to fight him, but like,
there's no.
What's he going to do? Beat the guy he beat 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, like that's not going to draw in the dollars. And so it may seem like his handler's greedy, but he's actually probably one of the better handlers on the antagonist side.
Yeah,
in this whole franchise.
And additionally, you talked about like legacy being important. Like the handler made the point of saying, like, I want to make sure you can leave something behind for your family. That's kind of what Adonis is for Marianne, is something left behind for her. And he is his own person, but it's a little piece of Apollo still left.
Yeah.
Because apparently her other 2 children vanished.
They disappeared. They got caught in the snap. That's a different series.
No.
And then, of course, like living up to a legacy, we see that they find a picture of Robert and Rocky, and then it's like, oh, like was your son a boxer? It's like, no, we tried, but like he just couldn't handle living here because living in my shadow. And so, like, living in someone's shadow is, a huge part of this this particular movie, because, like it or not, Adonis is in the shadow of his father, even though he never met him. People see the Creed name, and they want to know, like, well, is he good enough? Is he like his father? And then, like, Robert, everyone's like, oh, your dad's Rocky. Like, that's so cool. And, like, all the opportunities he ever got at his jobs, like, he felt were because of who he was. And so he had to escape that. And so this is, like, a good way for them to, like, kind of write the character out of the franchise, because, like, his own, Stallone's own son had passed away before this movie came out. And it was really hard for him.
And it felt like, because in Balboa, the whole reason, we talked about this in the previous episode, the whole reason that his son didn't play Robert in that movie is his son was busy and didn't have the ability to at the time. But I feel as though it would have been, I don't think Stallone would have been okay with them bringing Milo, what's his face, back to replay the character, because I think he felt that was a role for his son. But his son couldn't do it last time, so they made an okay. His son could okay it. There was agreements made and all sorts of stuff, but there is no one to agree this time.
And he probably didn't want to canonically kill the son, because that probably would have been too real for him.
There's just too much as well.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, they want to, it's kind of like you can just not pretend, but like, oh, like he's somewhere else and he has a good life, versus, it probably would have been too painful to either, have the other actor reprise the role or cast someone else.
Yeah.
Because the emotions, he was too close to the situation at the time.
Yeah, totally.
But definitely kind of echoing what Creed's going through with the living in your father's shadow.
Yep. Well, and they kind of like, they're this weird misfit family situation too, which I love that, where like, well, Rocky's son wasn't really someone that Rocky could pass his skills and talents onto, and Adonis never knew his father, so they kind of like find each other. Like, it's not like they replace the missing person in their lives, but they fill a gap that's there.
And then, speaking of living up to a legacy, we see that when they agree to fight Conlon, it's only on the condition that you go under the name Creed, because Adonis had been very adamant before that he was not going to, fight under that name, but this is the only deal that they could get.
Yep.
This is his chance to, build his legacy. And so they have to take the deal or there is no deal. So definitely he's worried about what people will think. Is he a fake Creed or a false Creed versus, being like a legitimate, entity on his own. And so he definitely struggles with that. And of course, once people start finding out he is the son of Creed, like he gets called like Little Creed and Baby Creed. And like he doesn't like that.
No.
He doesn't like that. It's very dismissive to call someone.
No one's learning his name. They just care that he's a Creed.
Yeah, so it kind of a little mirrors, Rocky V, where it's like Rocky's protege, Rocky's puppet, but now it's all Creed based. And then, of course, this moment at the press conference where he talks about he's trying to build his own legacy. And then Conlon is really like digging into the fact that like, oh, like you were like a silver spoon and like you're a false Creed. You just took that name yesterday. And so he really knows how to get Adonis's goat. And they end up like getting into like a mini altercation at the the press conference or whatever you want to call it.
It's like, man, I understand wanting to psych up your opponent and like put on a show, but like, geez, Ricky. Yeah,
like it's rude because especially like Adonis, like he really didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth for like a good 13 years of his life. Like that trauma of being, his mother died.
Yep.
He's been in and out of group homes and juvie. Like that is like those scars are going to stay with him forever.
It doesn't matter that he had a pretty comfortable life afterwards. Mm-hmm. That's not going to erase the trauma he went through.
Exactly.
Basically, it doesn't matter if things get better. The bad is still there, and it shouldn't be treated like just because you have it better later, It
doesn't discount what you went through.
Yep.
And then this moment where Conlon is redeems himself at the end because we had only seen him as kind of this rough character where he talks about like you're the future of this division. It's now it's your time and kind of the, passing the torch in one way, even though Adonis lost the fight.
It's Ricky realizing that like, man, you're
legitimate.
Look, what did he do? He knocked him down and he made Ricky sweat. Basically, like he did the same thing. And this is a minor issue I have. He did basically the same thing Rocky did
in Rocky IV,
or in the first Rocky. He didn't beat Creed, but he basically proved like I am good enough to do the things that no one else has done against you.
Yeah, so it kind of goes along with the whole like winning on your own terms. You may not have won the battle, but you proved yourself.
Yeah.
And so he is, creating his own legacy starting today. Like people will hopefully start seeing him as his own entity and not compare him so much to his father.
Yep. So closing remarks, all in all, I love this movie.
I thought it was wonderful. I wish it would have won more awards and accolades because it was a very strong sophomore effort from Coogler. I'm a little worried about Creed 2 because I know that he's not the director. And so, like, I know it has a lot to do with the whole Drago thing. And, like, I was so hyped up for Rocky 4 and then was disappointed. So I'm afraid that I'm going to be disappointed with this one, too, because I feel like,
it's some of Mandolf's fault, though.
It's going to, I'm going to feel like maybe they're not going to do enough with the premise. I don't know what that would be because our relationship with Russia is very different different from the Soviet Union era, but then not that different. So it's it'll be interesting to see what they do, and I really do. I want to see what Ivan Drago has been up to in the intermeaning.
Well, he had a kid.
He did have a kid. We know that.
Real quick, apparently, let's see, from Tom Zambino, he says that it was one of the issues he had too, that it kind of mirrored the first Rocky, the final fight. And I get that. The difference is, I think, though, in the end of the first Rocky, we got the impression that Apollo was like, man, that was a good fight. We're good. We're square. And then Rocky 2, they're like, nah, Apollo ain't happy.
I changed my mind 2 seconds later in the hospital.
Yeah, right? So I don't know. I liked it in general.
Yeah, I thought it was a really strong movie. Definitely up there among the tops of the franchise.
Tom asks if we have a final ranking. I think we were going to wait for that until after Creed 2. We thought about doing a small little recorded video after all the movies are out. 8 in total. Jesus. About boxing? No, it's more than boxing.
Yes, it's more than boxing.
I made that joke before we got into these movies, and now going through these movies, I'm like, yeah, no, it's not about boxing.
Yeah, it's not about
boxing is a vehicle to tell the story, but it's not about boxing.
But yeah, as we were saying, we're going to probably do like a separate video ranking everything and just doing like our final thoughts
on the franchise as a whole.
Yeah,
how we felt about it. Maybe how we feel compared to how we felt going into this.
Yeah, because we kind of talked about that a little, but we haven't really explored
how we felt about stuff. So
yeah,
Rocktober, our last movie will be this weekend with Creed 2. We're gonna at least see it once.
Yeah, so we probably won't have time to see it 3 times.
We're gonna try to see it twice.
Yeah, we'll see if we can.
No promises. Maybe one Thursday night, one Sunday morning.
We'll see what we can do. I know Wreck-It Ralph is also out this week, so we're going to go see that.
Fair. And we have a lot going on Friday and Saturday. So
yeah.
But yes, this movie is phenomenal. Ryan Coogler, definitely. I think he should get to do more independent stuff. And by independent, I mean not literally using the existing franchise to build something with.
Yeah, because this is an existing property.
Black Panther is technically an existing property.
Fruitvale Station's like the only one that's besides his short films.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think if not direct right, because he's phenomenal with that too. I kind of want to go watch Black Panther again now. I
want to watch Fruitvale Station. I've never seen it.
I also want to. I think that one has Peter Dinklage in it.
Ooh, nice.
Though I could be wrong. I could be thinking of another station.
We could also just watch more of the Stallone directed movies.
We could. We could also watch other Stallone movies in general.
Ooh, The Expendables. I've never seen those.
Never seen The Expendables. But let's see. Tom thinks he's going to see Creed 2 and Robin Hood this Friday.
Ooh.
Robin Hood looks okay.
Yeah, I forgot that was coming out.
I am interested, but I'm not excited. Yeah, I think it's the way to put it. Yeah. But anywho, thank you for joining us for this Creed coverage. Tomorrow is the first day of technically Thanksgiving break for both of us.
Yeah.
I do have class in the evening, but we're talking about doing something streaming all week or most of the week. Because it'll be, we could probably still do something Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, gaming wise.
Streamsgiving is what we're thinking of dubbing it.
Yes.
At least one stream a day, maybe 2 on some days if we can swing it, just depending on what we're feeling. And we're going to do different stuff, different games. So
yeah, if you want to be a part of that, keep an eye out on our channel. Make sure that you are subscribed and you've clicked that bell.
Yep.
So that way you can get notified when we start any live streaming. So yeah, and when Joe says streamsgiving, he means games, not just us randomly talking about something.
But we will randomly talk about stuff while streaming games.
A game, but yeah.
I mean, otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly, duh.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys. If we don't see you this week, we'll see you next Sunday for Creed 2. Same punchy time, same boxing ring channel.
Bye. Ding, ding.